What if I told you that one of the most feared robots in movie history was actually played by a man so weak he couldn't even lift the leading lady? And what if I told you that this so-called robot servant wasn't really the servant at all, but the true master pulling the strings? This isn't just another black and white sci-fi flick. It's a Cold War warning, a political statement wrapped in a flying saucer, and a film hiding secrets Hollywood never meant for you to know. From real science scribbled on a blackboard to government backlash to a twist ending that flips the entire story on its head, these are the shocking truths behind The Day the Earth Stood Still. 1. A sci-fi film, born in the Cold War. The year was 1951. The world was holding its breath. On one side of the globe, America. On the other, the Soviet Union. And in between, a fragile peace built on fear of the atom bomb. Every newspaper headline screamed about spies, communists, and the possibility of nuclear annihilation. Children practiced duck and cover drills in school, families built fallout shelters in their backyards, and Hollywood, never missing a trend, churned out films that mirrored the panic. Most of these movies weren't subtle. They gave audiences radioactive monsters, flying saucer invaders, and alien threats that mirrored Cold War anxieties. Aliens were stand-ins for communists, the military was always the last line of defense, and the message was simple: America must fight or die. But then came The Day the Earth Stood Still. Instead of feeding fear, it challenged it. Instead of glorifying war, it condemned it. Director Robert Wise and producer Julian Blaustein dared to make a science fiction movie that wasn't about blasting invaders from the sky. It was about looking inward. What if humanity's aggression wasn't heroic, but dangerous? What if the real threat wasn't the alien outsider, but ourselves? That's why Klaatu, the calm, almost Christ-like alien visitor, arrives not as a conqueror, but as a warning. His message is clear. If humans can't control their violence, if they insist on waging war, then the rest of the galaxy will intervene, and the outcome won't be pretty. Standing beside him is Gort, a silent robot with the power to vaporize tanks and soldiers in seconds. A chilling reminder of what unchecked power really looks like. Imagine watching this in 1951, when Senator Joseph McCarthy was hunting supposed communists in Hollywood, when patriotism was demanded at every level, and when questioning the military was close to treason. This movie wasn't just a sci-fi flick. It was a radical statement, delivered right under the noses of government censors. And yet, for all its daring, the film didn't announce itself as a lecture. It wrapped its message in spectacle, mystery, and detail, so authentic that audiences believed what they were seeing. Because in this story, even the blackboard wasn't just a prop. The equations on it, they were real, and that scientific accuracy was the first clue that The Day the Earth Stood Still was operating on a level no one expected. 2. The Blackboard of Truth. In most sci-fi films of the early 1950s, science was little more than decoration. Equations scribbled by prop artists, gadgets that looked flashy but meant nothing. But The Day the Earth Stood Still was different. When Klaatu, posing as Mr. Carpenter, steps into Professor Barnhart's office and casually corrects a string of chalk equations, something unusual is happening. Those weren't random symbols. They represented the three-body problem, one of the most difficult puzzles in Newtonian physics. The problem asks, how do three celestial bodies orbit one another under gravity? With two, the math is neat. With three, it's chaos. Unpredictable, unstable, and fiendishly complex. Exactly the kind of calculation an advanced alien would know by heart. Producer Julian Blaustein hired UCLA astronomer Dr. Samuel Herrick to make sure the formulas were authentic. Audiences in 1951 didn't need to understand the math, they just sensed it was real. And that detail made all the difference. In a genre known for rubber monsters and nonsense jargon, the blackboard scene told viewers, this story mattered. This was science fiction with its feet planted in reality. But authenticity didn't stop at math. Even the sound of the movie would reshape the future of sci-fi forever. 3. The sound of the future. Think about the sound of a UFO. That eerie, rising hum, the otherworldly warble that instantly signals alien. That sound was born here. Composer Bernard Herrmann, later famous for Psycho and Vertigo, created a score unlike anything audiences had heard. He brought in not one but two theremins, the strange electronic instruments you play without touching, each pitched at different frequencies to create a ghostly stereo effect. Herrmann layered them with electric violins, cellos, bass, multiple organs, and a thunderous percussion section. Then he went further, experimenting with reverse tape playback and overdubbing to bend the music into something uncanny. The result was revolutionary. This wasn't background music. It was another character, alien, unsettling, unforgettable. And once audiences heard it, they couldn't imagine flying saucers sounding any other way. Herrmann had written the soundtrack for the future of sci-fi, but while Herrmann redefined how the future sounded, the effects team was busy redefining how it looked, building a spaceship with no seams, no hinges, and no visible flaws. 4. The spaceship with no seams. When Klaatu's saucer lands in Washington, D.C., it looks impossibly smooth. No bolts, no seams, just a flawless alien surface. And then, out of nowhere, a ramp appears. To 1951 audiences, it felt like magic. But the trick was pure old-school ingenuity. The ramp door was real, but its seams were filled with ordinary putty, sanded smooth, and painted silver to blend with the hull. When the hidden mechanism forced the ramp open, the putty split cleanly, creating the illusion of seamless alien technology. It was simple, cheap, and brilliant. A reminder that sometimes the smallest tricks create the biggest wonder. But Robert Wise wasn't only interested in fooling the eye. He wanted to fool the mind, to make audiences believe. And to do that, he blurred the line between fiction and reality itself. 5. Blurring fiction and reality. Instead of casting actors as news reporters, Wise hired real journalists. H.V. Kaltenborn, Gabriel Heder, Elmer Davis, names every American in 1951 recognized. Voices that had delivered updates on wars, elections, and crises. Now those same voices were calmly describing a flying saucer in Washington, D.C. For audiences, it was chilling. This wasn't entertainment, it felt like breaking news. The strategy worked. Wise had taken something unthinkable and made it believable. But that believability came at a cost. Because when the Pentagon saw the script, they didn't just dislike it. They refused to have anything to do with it. 6. The Pentagon's silent rebellion. Hollywood often leaned on the military for tanks, soldiers, and equipment. But when producers asked for help, the Defense Department said no. Why? The message. The film portrayed the military as reckless, paranoid, and powerless in the face of higher intelligence. In the patriotic heat of the Korean War, that was unacceptable. So the production turned to the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Meade for the hardware. It was a workaround, but the refusal from the Pentagon was clear. They wanted nothing to do with a film that dared to call humanity's aggression a weakness, not a strength. It was a bold stance for 1951. But if the military thought their refusal would stop the film, they were wrong. Instead, the controversy only fueled its legacy. Legacy interlude. The Day the Earth Stood Still wasn't just another sci-fi flick. It elevated the genre. It paved the way for 2001: A Space Odyssey, Contact, even Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry himself admitted the film's humanist tone shaped his vision of the future. The phrase Klaatu Barada Nikto became part of pop culture, referenced everywhere from comic books to Star Wars. By 1995, the film was preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry. What started as a modest hit became a timeless warning. But for the people making it, not everyone saw greatness. One star thought it was destined to flop. 7. The star who thought it was a flop. Actress Patricia Neal, who played Helen Benson, admitted she thought the whole thing was silly. A flying saucer movie? With lines like, Klaatu Barada Nikto? She could barely keep a straight face. She assumed it would vanish like countless other B-movies of the time. Yet years later, she was stunned to find herself forever tied to one of the most iconic phrases in film history. Her skepticism shows a timeless truth. Even the people making a classic rarely know it at the time. 8. Casting an alien nobody knew. For Klaatu, the studio wanted a star, Spencer Tracy, Claude Rains, names that sold tickets. But Robert Wise disagreed. A star brought baggage. Audiences would see the actor, not the alien. So he cast Michael Rennie, a British actor unknown in America. That gamble paid off. Rennie's dignified presence and calm diction made him feel truly otherworldly. By choosing an unfamiliar face, Wise gave audiences something rare, an alien they could believe in. But while Rennie was a risk that paid off, another actor nearly lost his role altogether, not because of talent, but because of politics. 9. The blacklist strikes at Professor Barnhart. Actor Sam Jaff, cast as the wise Professor Barnhart, was nearly erased from the film. Why? The Hollywood blacklist. Rumors of communist sympathies made him radioactive. The studio considered cutting him out entirely, but producer Julian Blaustein fought for him, appealing directly to studio chief Daryl F. Zanuck. Against the odds, Jaffe stayed. It was a victory, but short-lived. The blacklist still derailed his career for nearly a decade. His presence in the film was both defiance and tragedy. A man punished by the same kind of paranoia the movie warned against. And while Jaffe's struggle was political, another cast member was battling something much more physical. 10. The Fragile Giant. On screen, Gort was terrifying. In reality, the man inside the suit, Lock Martin, was fragile. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, Martin looked the part. But he wasn't strong. The foam rubber suit was suffocatingly heavy. He could barely move in it and often lasted no more than half an hour before collapsing from exhaustion. Scenes of Gort carrying Patricia Neal or Michael Rennie? Pure trickery. Hidden wires, lightweight dummies, and even a dolly disguised as a lift carried Rennie in one shot. If you watch closely, you can even see Martin's arms twitching from muscle spasms. The indestructible robot was, in truth, a man struggling just to stay upright. But the most shocking secret wasn't about the suit, the score, or even the blacklist. It was about the story itself. Gold frame reveal. Who was the real master? In the film, Klaatu is the leader and Gort his servant. But in the original short story by Harry Bates, Farewell to the Master, things were very different. There, the robot named Newt wasn't a follower. He was the true master. Klaatu wasn't in charge at all. He was a disposable assistant created by machines to interact with humans. The story's chilling twist comes when Newt finally speaks. You misunderstand. Klaatu was not the master. I am. That revelation changes everything. The message isn't just about peace, it's about power. About machines that quietly outrank their human counterparts. About a universe where humanity isn't at the top. Hollywood softened the idea for audiences in 1951, making Klaatu the figure of authority. But the original concept is far more unsettling. Because if Gort was truly the master, then humanity wasn't negotiating with a benevolent alien at all. We were standing before the real rulers of the galaxy, machines. A classic that still warns us today. From a robot powered by a frail usher to real equations chalked on a blackboard to a message so bold the Pentagon turned its back. The Day the Earth Stood Still is more than a movie. It's a warning. Its legacy isn't just cinematic, it's prophetic. In an age where artificial intelligence is no longer fiction, the gold frame reveal feels more relevant than ever. If the machines are the true masters, what does that mean for us? 70 years later, the film still asks the same haunting question. Can humanity choose peace, or will we destroy ourselves before anyone else needs to intervene? If you discovered something new today, illuminate our day by liking this video, sharing it, and subscribing so you never miss another journey into the hidden history of cinema. And tell us in the comments, which film or actor should we uncover next?